In a shocking turn of event, President Masai Ujiri has been fired by the Toronto Raptors, ushering in a new era for the franchise. So, why would ownership group MLSE make this decision, and why now? Let's get into it. Difficult news to process this morning, especially amidst the timing here. Yes, Masai Ujiri has been fired by Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment Group as the president of basketball operations for the Toronto Raptors. And this one came absolutely out of nowhere today. I mean, I don't think it was inconceivable to say that Masai Ujiri would get let go here. After all, he has 1 year left on his contract. He hasn't seen eye to eye previously with Ed Rogers, head of Rogers Media, who have taken over things as of late for the Raptors. And when the last time Masai Ujiri signed this contract, it was Ed Rogers that was pushing for the Raptors not to give him this deal, saying that somebody else could do a similar job for cheaper. So maybe there was a little bit of internal turmoil there, but still, just extraordinarily difficult news to process for Raptors fans, for the architect of their 2019 NBA championship, the person who has completely reshaped this franchise over his 13 years with the team. Just, yeah, difficult to process altogether. I'm trying to gather my words to do this video here for you with this one. And it just, I mean, the timing of it all. Like, the NBA draft was yesterday. Masai Ujiri was literally the first person to call these guys and welcome them to the team.
Yo!
Yo!
What's up? What's up, man?
It's good. Thank you so much.
You good?
Yes, sir. I'm doing amazing right now.
Everything good?
Yeah, everything's good. My family's good. I can't wait to come down.
Colin Murray-Boyles, recent Raptors 9th overall pick, was talking about building that relationship with Masai Ujiri and the energy that Masai Ujiri brought for his Raptors workout. Like, to do this right after the draft and right before free agency begins, I really don't quite understand what's going on here. I know he had 1 year left on his contract, and like I was saying, maybe he was going to walk at the end of the year. That would have been, I think the most likely outcome was that he was going to walk at the end of the year. But to remove him from his position at this point just seems extraordinarily strange, to say the least. And Raptors fans like myself are just trying to gather themselves with this whole situation. Now, not dissimilar to what was going on with the Maple Leafs, same ownership group, of course, MLSE. Brendan Shanahan was fired from his role as president of operations there for the Leafs. And my understanding here would have been just a cost-cutting measure, and that the general manager, Bobby Webster, would now just report directly to MLSE, wouldn't have Masai Ujiri ahead of him. Bobby Webster kind of, in the same sort of title, general manager, will have a bigger role as general manager now with the Raptors. But to my even larger surprise after this, it came out that the Toronto Raptors are now beginning to search for a new president. And that just made the whole thing a lot more strange. I thought if this was going to be a cost-cutting maneuver, just remove the role. Still strange, but okay, so be it. But now that they're going to find somebody to replace him as well, yeah, I'm still just trying to process that as well. Along with the news of Masai Ujiri's removal from the position, I mean, the terminology that they're using, the terminology specifically that Shams Charania used of ESPN, is that they are parting ways. So I don't know if there was some mutual desire from both parties, but like with the involvement of Masai Ujiri in the draft process, it seems, maybe this blindsided him and came out of left field a little bit as well. But along with the news of Masai Ujiri, quote unquote, parting ways with the Raptors have come out and said that they are working on extensions for Bobby Webster. And there's actually initial reports to suggest that like an extension for Bobby Webster is already in place and like almost done essentially. So yeah, that kind of further complicates things here, because if you're starting to search for a new president, a lot of the times, like, somebody will want to come into the role and come into the job and bring their own people and hire their own people. The Raptors have gotten rid of Masai Ujiri and are looking to keep everybody else. Not sure how desirable of a position this is going to be for a potential president to come in, already have all the staff here, already come into a difficult cap situation for the team. I'm not really sure if this is going to be an extremely desirable spot for the Raptors. All in all, like, just a shocking situation. There's no better way to describe it here for Masai. But, I mean, let's look at some of the decision-making here. Was there a reason MLSE proceeded with this? Was there a reason they want to replace Masai Ujiri? Because it hasn't been great for the Raptors over the last few years. I mean, let's look at Masai Ujiri's tenure as a whole with the Raptors. Think about like what the Raptors looked like when he came in. When Masai Ujiri came in, the Raptors had one playoff series win in their entire franchise history. It was the sports scene in general in Toronto. It was a losing scene, especially with the Raptors. It was a completely undesirable destination. Like, nobody wanted to be here. All the star players who had ever been here would eventually want to leave because they didn't want to be in Toronto. It was a pretty bad situation to look at. And it seemed just inconceivable. It seemed impossible that that franchise could eventually become an NBA champion, let alone as soon as 2019. Like, the amount of credit, like, when people say Raptors fans gas up Masai Ujiri, I mean, when you consider the state of this franchise when he came in and the complete culture shift and culture change and mentality change that took place in his time in the position, you could say it's nothing short of a miracle going on to win that 2019 NBA championship. Seriously, considering the state of the franchise, to go and win a championship in 2019, you could consider it nothing short of a miracle. And there can't be enough praise that goes into the group that helped make it happen, led by Masai Ujiri pulling the strings. But since that 2019 championship, a lot of things have gone wrong for the team. COVID, I think, derailed a lot of the progress for the Raptors. Like, Kawhi left. People thought all of a sudden, like, it was a one-and-done season. Now the Raps are going to fall back into obscurity. They were the 2 seed. They had an outstanding season. If it wasn't for COVID, I think they get back to the NBA Finals and run into the Lakers, and that's probably where they get stopped in that playoff run. But I mean, Siakam was a huge casualty to COVID, and he was awful in that playoffs. And they still took that Boston Celtics team right to the brink of Game 7. I think they were better than the Miami team that Boston lost to in the conference finals. But like, going too far with that can of worms. I think it derailed a lot because the next season they were playing in Tampa. Just a horrible situation for the team. They had an awful year record-wise. They got Scotty Barnes, had that one upturn year where they won, was like 45, 48 games in that range. They were the 5 seed, lost to the 6 in the first round, and it's been downhill ever since. But I just feel like so much got set back in that era. And there was a lot of struggles that came off the back of winning that championship. And a lot of players were mishandled by Masai Ujiri's front office. I mean, it's no secret. It has to be said. The Raptors lost out on Serge Ibaka and Marc Gasol. They were aging, and it made sense, but those two got replaced by Aaron fucking Baines and Alex Len. Like, that was a huge setback for the team. And they weren't able to find a replacement until they got Jakob Poeltl at the trade deadline a couple years ago. And I still believe that was just not the right time to make that trade. They didn't address the need for a big when Ibaka and Gasol left. And when they did address it with Poeltl, it came a year too late. And the Raptors were already in too big of a hole. And things started spiraling out of control with Pascal Siakam being on an expiring contract. OG Anunoby being on an expiring contract. And the Raptors probably not getting the right amount of value out of those two. And even before that, Fred VanVleet walked for nothing. Norman Powell of the championship team was traded for Gary Trent Jr. It seemed like a trade that, okay, the Raptors are going to go younger for a player of similar talent who's going to be cheaper. Powell didn't end up signing the contract we thought he would. Gary Trent Jr. did not become the player we thought he would, and he ended up leaving for free. So we ended up giving up on Norman Powell, who's emerged as this premier NBA talent now with the Clippers. We gave up on him for Gary Trent Jr. Kyle Lowry walked away for a trade that essentially gave the Raptors nothing. They got Goran Dragic, which was a massive stain on the Raptors to have, and Precious Achiuwa, who amounted to nothing with the Raptors and was a throw-in in the OG Anunoby trade to the New York Knicks when we got Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett. The Raptors had the opportunity to trade Kyle Lowry for Tyrese Maxey before he became a free agent at the end of the season, where we signed and traded him. Like, the Raptors could have gotten Tyrese Maxey for Kyle Lowry. And instead, they basically had Kyle Lowry sitting the rest of the season because they were tanking, and then signed and traded him in the offseason to the Miami Heat, again, in a deal that probably didn't maximize his value. So there has been a lot of mishandling of assets. There's no doubting that. And Masai Ujiri absolutely, and rightfully so, earned a lot of leeway by, building a freaking NBA champion in Toronto. Something that seemed, like I said, inconceivable to do. He bought himself some time by doing that, and a lot of mistakes were made in the team building process. I felt like this front office was starting to dig themselves out of the hole they dug themselves into look, the Siakam situation was mishandled. Given his contract situation on an expiring contract, they did pretty good with the return and turned that return into essentially Brandon Ingram, Ochai Agbaji, and Jacoby Walter. Not horrible. There was some damage control there. OG Anunoby turning into RJ Barrett and Emmanuel quickly. Not horrible. There was some damage control there. But it's just still a bit of mismanagement of the assets in that range. Was it enough to get Masai Ujiri fired here? I'm not so sure. Especially with 1 year on his contract. I mean, I could have understood if he left at the end of the season. They didn't bring him back. They wanted to go with some like a cheaper option, a cost-cutting option. But it still feels a little bit strange, the timing of this decision. And my worry with this here is that as much as, there have been mistakes by the front office, a whole bunch that I listed here, the grass is not always greener on the other side. Masai Ujiri is a proven winner and a proven team builder who I believe will have a lot of interest from other teams around the league. I don't know what his future is going to hold. Right now, like early markets say the Hawks are the favorites to get him. I think there's going to be a lot of teams that are interested in him. Who knows? Like Masai Ujiri has hinted in the past, maybe he's got desires to go into things beyond the NBA. Who knows what the future is going to hold from Masai Ujiri? NBA Africa, like Giants of Africa, that program, is he going to get more involved there? There are a lot of different ways Masai Ujiri can go, and I really do believe he'll be successful wherever he ends up. But he has hinted at, wanting other challenges in the past. Was some of this mutual? Was Masai Ujiri just involved with the draft process to help with the prospects? Like, not a great situation to bring in a prospect and say, like, yeah, we just fired our president, but here's our great organization. Also not a great look to draft them and then say, yeah, the president you started bonding with and build a connection with, we just fired him. That's also a strange situation to be. Heading into free agency, it's not like the Raptors have a lot of cap space, but yeah, come to this team. We're in the middle of like an overhaul of the head of our front office. What a great situation to come into as a free agent. Like, I don't know. All of the timing here is just crazy. And the thing for me, the grass isn't always greener. I know they put themselves in a hole. I know mistakes were made. But with the proven track record of Masai Ujiri, I felt like he had the capabilities to dig himself out of that hole, to dig this team out of that hole and build this team back up. Now, he's proven to have done it with the Raptors, so there's an element of trust to be able to do that, which for whoever comes in and replaces him, that same sort of trust from my perspective isn't going to be there. Do I trust Rodgers and MLSE to make the right hire here in a critical time for the Raptors? Honestly, I don't. At least I had that trust and proof of process previously to fall back on for Masai Ujiri, and maybe that's more expensive to have that than somebody else, but I don't really have faith in this ownership group to get this hire right. So it's not just about like the mistakes and getting rid of Masai Ujiri. Like, are you going to find somebody who's going to be able to do a better job than Masai Ujiri? That's where I lose a lot of confidence, and I'm thinking I'm not so sure they're able to do that. So it's a big gamble to get rid of such a big name as Masai Ujiri, and we are just going to have to see if it pays off. But difficult one that's going to take some time to settle in. To end off, like, man, genuinely, like, growing up, according to my analytics, most of the audience a bit older than me, and you went through worse than me. I was born in 1999, so my first jersey was a Chris Bosh jersey, and there were some good times in there. I wasn't as much in the doldrums as some of the older people watching this right now. But for people younger than me, like, I don't know, like if you grew up in this We the North era, 2013 onwards, you grew up in the Masai Ujiri era, you seriously just have no idea what the state of the franchise was. how bleak everything always looked for this franchise. And that mentality and culture completely shifted largely as a result of what Masai Ujiri did for this team. Seriously. We will never be able to thank him enough, repay him enough. Thank you so much to Masai Ujiri for everything he has done for this franchise. He allowed this franchise not only to dream, but he allowed this fan base to realize that dream of becoming an NBA champion and believe that we are going to be able to do it again. But now the journey starts to be able to get back to that point without Masai Ujiri involved.